Hey there, guys. Today we are reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. I think you know him. He was a fighter of civil rights. He was a big member of Black Americans movement. He was a member of Nation of Islam. It's a pretty strong Black Americans organization. Someone call it racist, but I don't think that it's right. And so today I want to read a part of his autobiography of Malcolm X, I mean, and I will be very glad if you can so tell me some words and some expressions that I don't understand. I think you know that English is not my native tongue, and so know every word of his autobiography is pretty understandable for me. So I would ask when I don't know the meaning, and I am expecting that in the comments down below you explain me the expressions and the words, the meaning of the expressions and the words. So let's go, guys. It's Malcolm X, his autobiography, and the first chapter called Nightmare. When my mother was pregnant with me, she told me later, a party of hooded Ku Klux Klan riders galloped up to our home in Omaha, Nebraska one night, surrounding the house, brandishing their shotguns and rifles. So here I don't know what does it mean, brandishing their shotguns and rifles. So if you know what does it mean, brandishing their shotguns and rifles, I would be grateful to you if you explain me that in the comments down below. So brandishing their shotguns and rifles, they shouted for my father to come out. My mother went to the front door and opened it. Standing where they could see her pregnant condition, she told them that she was alone with her 3 small children and that my father was away preaching in Milwaukee. The Klansmen shouted threats and warnings at her that we had better get out of town because the good Christian white people were not going to stand for my father's spreading trouble among the good Negroes of Omaha with the Back to Africa preachings of Marcus Garvey. My father, the Reverend Earl Little, was a Baptist minister, a dedicated organizer for Marcus Aurelius Garvey's UNIA, Universal Negro Improvement Association. With the help of such disciples as my father, I'm not sure what does it mean, disciples. With the help of such disciples as my father. So if you know what does it mean, disciples, please write down below in the comments. So with the help of such disciples as my father, Garvey, from his headquarters in New York City's Harlem, was raising the banner of black race purity and exhorting the Negro masses to return to their ancestral African homeland, a course which had made Garvey the most controversial black man on earth. Still shooting threats, the Klansmen finally spurred their horses and galloped around the house, shattering every window pane with their gun butts. Then they rode off into the night, their torches flaring as suddenly as they had come. My father was erect when he returned. So erect, I don't know what does it mean, man. My father was erect when he returned. enraged, or maybe enraged. This is G, enraged or enraged. My father was enraged when he returned. So what does it mean, enraged? Please type down below in the comments. He decided to wait until I was born, which would be soon, and then the family would move. I'm not sure why he made this decision, for he was not a frightened Negro, as most then were, and many still are today. My father was a big 6'4", a very black man. He had only one eye. How he had lost the other one, I have never known. He was from Reynolds, Georgia, where he had left school after the 3rd or maybe 4th grade. He believed, as did Marcus Garvey, that freedom, independence, and self-respect could never be achieved by the Negro in America, and that therefore the Negro should leave America to the white man and return to his African land of origin. Among the reasons my father had decided to risk and dedicate his life to help disseminate this philosophy. Disseminate, I'm not sure what does it mean, guys. His life to help and dedicate his life to help disseminate this philosophy among his people. So disseminate, maybe it means spread this philosophy among his people. Maybe, I'm not sure if I'm right. If you know this word, please type down below in the comments, guys. Dedicate his life to help disseminate this philosophy among his people was that he had seen 4 of his 6 brothers die by violence, 3 of them killed by white men, including one by lynching. What my father could not know then was that of the remaining 3, including himself, only one, my Uncle Jim, would die in bed of natural causes. Northern white police were later to shoot my Uncle Oscar, and my father was finally himself to die by the white man's hands. It has always been my belief that I too will die by violence. I have done all that I can to be. I've done all that I can to be prepared. I was my father's 7th child. He had 3 children by a previous marriage, Ella, Earl, and Mary, who lived in Boston. He had met and married my mother in Philadelphia, where their first child, my oldest full brother, Wilfred, was born. They moved from Philadelphia to Omaha, where Hilda and then Filbert were born. I was next in the line. My mother was 28 when I was born on May 19th, 1925, in an Omaha hospital. Then we moved to Milwaukee, where Reginald was born. From infancy, he had some kind of hernia condition which was to handicap him physically for the rest of his life. From infancy. I'm not sure what does it mean. Maybe it means unfortunately he had some kind of hernia and so on. So from infancy, please write down below in the comments what does it mean. From infancy. He had some kind of hernia condition which was to handicap him physically for the rest of his life. Lucy Little, my mother, who was born in Grenada in the British West Indies, looked like a white woman. Her father was white. She had straight black hair and her accent didn't sound like a Negro's. Of this white father of hers I know nothing except her shame about it. I remember hearing her say she was glad that she had never seen him. It was of course because of him that I got my reddish-brown mariny color of skin and my hair of the same color. I got my reddish-brown mariny color. What does it mean, mariny? I'm not sure. I think I never heard about this word. It's maybe it's set in some other meaning. I'm not sure. So it was, of course, because of him that I got my reddish-brown mariny color of skin. So if you know what does it mean, mariny, please write down below in the comments. And my hair of the same color. I was the lightest child in our family. Out in the world later on in Boston and New York, I was among the millions of Negroes who were insane enough to feel that it was some kind of status symbol to be light complexioned, that one was actually fortunate to be born thus. But still later I learned to hate every drop of that white rapist's blood that is in me. I think it's pretty strong words, but still later I learned to hate every drop of that white rapist's blood that is in me. Our family stayed only briefly in Milwaukee, for my father wanted to find a place where he could raise our own food and perhaps build a business. The teaching of Marcus Garvey stressed becoming independent of the white man. We went next for some reason to Lansing, Michigan. My father bought a house, and soon as had been his pattern, he was doing freelance Christian preaching in local Negro Baptist churches, and during the week he was roaming about spreading word of Marcus Garvey. He was roaming. What does it mean, roaming? Maybe he wishes, he wants very much to do something. So he was roaming. He was roaming about spreading word of Marcus Garvey. What does it mean? He was warming. I think that it's meaning he wishes, he want something very much. So if I'm correct, please write down below. He was roaming. He was roaming about spreading word of Marcus Garvey. He had begun to lay away savings for the store he had always wanted to own when, as always, some stupid local Uncle Tom Negroes began to funnel stories about his revolutionary beliefs to the local white people. This time the get out of town threats came from a local hate society called the Black Legion. They wore black robes instead of white. Soon nearly everywhere my father went, black legionnaires were revealing him as an uppity nigger. I'm not sure what does it mean, uppity. It's U-P-P-I-T-Y. U-P-P-I-T-Y. Uppity. Nigger. If you know what does it mean, please write down below. For wanting to own a store, for living outside the Lansing Negro district, for spreading unrest and dissension among the good niggers. As in Omaha, my mother was pregnant again, this time with my youngest sister. Shortly after Yvonne was born came the nightmare night in 1929, my earliest vivid memory. I remember being suddenly snatched awake into a frightening confusion of pistol shots and shooting and smoke and flames. My father had shouted and shot at the two white men who had set the fire and were running away. Our home was burning down around us. We were longing and bumping and tumbling all over each other trying to escape. My mother, with the baby in her arms, just made it into the yard before the house crashed in, showering sparks. I remember we were outside in the night in our underwear, crying and yelling our hats off. The white police and firemen came and stood around watching as the house burned down to the ground. My father prevailed on some friends to clothe and house us temporarily. Then he moved us into another house on the outskirts of East Lansing. In those days, Negroes weren't allowed after dark in East Lansing proper. That is where Michigan State University is located. I related all of this to an audience of students when I spoke there in January 1963 and had the first reunion in a long while with my younger brother Robert, who was there doing postgraduate studies in psychology. I told them how East Lansing harassed us so much that we had to move again, this time 2 miles out of town into the country. This was where my father built for us with his own hands a 4-room house. This is where I really begin to remember things, this home where I started to grow up. After the fire, I remember that my father was called in and questioned about a permit for the pistol with which he had shot at the white man who set the fire. I remember that the police were always dropping by our house, showing things around, just checking or looking for a gun. The pistol they were looking for, which they never found, and for which they wouldn't issue a permit, was sewed up inside a pillow. My father's .22 rifle and his shotgun, though, were right out in the open. Everyone had them for hunting birds and rabbits and other game. After that, my memories are of the friction between my father and mother. They seemed to be nearly always at odds. Sometimes my father would beat her. It might have had something to do with the fact that my mother had a pretty good education. Where she got it, I don't know, but an educated woman, I suppose, can't resist the temptation to correct an uneducated man. Every now and then, when she put those smooth words on him, he would grab her. My father was also belligerent toward all of the children except me. So in this case, guys, I don't understand what does it mean belligerent. My father was also belligerent toward all of the children except me. So I can only guess that it means that he relate with more patience and he liked other children more than him. Maybe I can understand it like that. So write down below what does it mean belligerent. My father was also belligerent toward all of the children except me. The older ones he would beat almost savagely if they broke any of his rules, and he had so many rules it was hard to know them all. Nearly all my whippings came from my mother. I have thought a lot about why. I actually believe that as anti-white as my father was, he was subconsciously so afflicted afflicted with the white man's brainwashing of Negroes that he inclined to favor the light ones, and I was the lightest child. Most Negro parents in those days would almost instinctively treat any lighter children better than they did the darker ones. It came directly from the slavery tradition that the mulatto, because he was visibly nearer to white, was therefore better. So in this case, I guess maybe belligerent means the opposite stuff. So just write down below. So guys, this is the part of autobiography of Malcolm X. I think that this was a great man in Black Society movement, and I'd be grateful very much to you if you write down below that words that I can't, those words that I can't understand. So guys, I wish I see you next time. I wish you like my blog, and I wish you subscribe in my channel. So see you next time. Bye.